The envelope felt like a slap across the face. I stood in the hallway of my late wife's apartment building, reading the letter for the third time, hoping the words would somehow change. Dear Mr. Morrison, after careful inspection of Unit 4B, we have determined extensive emotional damage to the property following your wife's passing. The security deposit of $5,000 will be retained for spiritual cleansing required, $2,000. Emotional trauma to property value, $2,000. Administrative fees for dealing with death in unit, $1,000. This matter is considered closed. Gerald Fitzgerald, property manager. My hands shook. Sarah had been gone for only 3 weeks. Brain aneurysm at 32, no warning, no goodbye. And this vulture was claiming emotional damage to keep her deposit? I knocked on the property manager's door. Gerald Fitzgerald answered wearing a silk bathrobe at 2 p.m., cologne so thick it made my eyes water. Mr. Morrison, he said with a practiced smile that didn't reach his eyes. I assume you got my letter. Emotional damage? I held up the paper. What the hell is emotional damage to an apartment? He leaned against his doorframe. Death leaves an imprint. Future tenants can sense it. The unit needs spiritual cleansing, sage crystals, the works. Plus, property values drop when people die in units. That's real financial damage. She died in the hospital, not the apartment. She lived there while sick. Same energy. He examined his manicured nails. Look, I'm doing you a favor, only charging $5,000. Could be worse. This is illegal. Security deposits are for actual damage. Gerald's smile widened, showing too many teeth. Sue me if you want. See how far you get fighting a property management company while you're grieving. Legal fees alone will cost more than $5,000. He started closing the door. Oh, and you have 48 hours to clear out her things or I charge storage fees. Business is business. The door clicked shut in my face. I stood there numb. Sarah would have laughed at the absurdity. Spiritual cleansing for an apartment? She was the most practical person I'd ever known. A data analyst who believed in spreadsheets, not sage. Walking back to her unit. Our unit, really, though I'd kept my own place for work, I pulled out my phone. I needed to call her father. William Chin answered on the first ring. Trevor. How are you holding up? Not great, William. The landlord's keeping Sarah's security deposit. Says there's emotional damage to the apartment. Silence. Then, Gerald said what? I explained the letter, the conversation, the threat. William listened without interrupting, which should have been my first clue. Sarah's father was many things, brilliant, kind, generous, but never quiet when angry. Trevor, he said finally, his voice oddly calm. Pack Sarah's things carefully. Take your time. Don't rush. I'll handle Mr. Fitzgerald. William, I appreciate it, but he seems pretty dug in. Did Sarah ever tell you about her trust fund? I frowned. She mentioned family money, but she never touched it. Said she wanted to make her own way. That's my girl. His voice cracked slightly. The trust owns several investments. Real estate mostly. She was supposed to take control when she turned 35. Okay. Sunset Property Holdings, LLC. Ever heard of it? My blood ran cold. That was the company name on the lease. The company that owns Sarah's building. William, are you saying? I'm saying pack carefully, son. Gerald Fitzgerald is about to learn what emotional damage really means. William Chin had built his fortune quietly. He'd started with one rental property in the 80s, leveraged it into 2, then 4, then 40. By the time Sarah was born, he owned buildings across the city through various LLCs, all managed by property companies that never knew the real owner. I wanted Sarah to learn independence, he explained when I met him at his office the next day. Behind him, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked downtown. So I never told her she was living in one of my buildings. Paid rent like everyone else, dealt with managers like everyone else. And Gerald never knew? Property managers rarely know the actual owners. They deal with the LLC, get their monthly reports, collect their fees. He pulled up something on his computer. Gerald Fitzgerald. Hired 3 years ago. Decent numbers, no major complaints until now. He turned the screen toward me. But I've been watching him. Small things, charging for fake repairs, keeping deposits over normal wear and tear. Nothing big enough to act on until now. So what do we do? William smiled. It was not a kind smile. We give Mr. Fitzgerald exactly what he asked for. A business transaction. The first sign of trouble for Gerald came the next morning. He received a letter from Sunset Property Holdings law firm, not about Sarah's deposit but about his own apartment. As property manager, he'd been given a unit as part of his compensation package. Dear Mr. Fitzgerald, we are conducting a comprehensive audit of all units. Your apartment, 1A, requires immediate inspection for emotional damage from previous tenants, spiritual contamination assessment, administrative burden evaluation. Please have the unit vacated within 24 hours for proper cleansing. Your belongings may be stored at your expense. Sunset Property Holdings, LLC. I know because Gerald called me panicking. What did you do? He demanded. I don't know what you're talking about, I said honestly. William hadn't told me this part. This is about the deposit, isn't it? Fine. Take your $5,000. You said the matter was closed. I'm just packing my wife's things like you asked. He hung up on me. But that was just the beginning. William had hired a forensic accountant to review 3 years of Gerald's books. What they found was a masterclass in small-scale theft. $500 here for carpet cleaning, that never happened. $1,000 there for painting done by fictional contractors. Security deposits kept for damages that didn't exist. Over 3 years, Gerald had stolen approximately $47,000 from tenants. The beautiful part, William explained over dinner, is that he was smart enough to keep each theft small. No single tenant would sue over $500 or $1,000. The legal fees wouldn't be worth it. But collectively, class action lawsuit material, plus criminal charges for fraud. Meanwhile, Gerald was living in a hotel. His own apartment was being spiritually cleansed at his expense. William had hired actual shamans, priests from 6 different religions, and a woman who claimed to speak to architectural spirits. The bill was $15,000 and climbing. He set the precedent, William said. Emotional damage requires spiritual cleansing. I'm just following his own policies. The next day, Gerald tried to return to work and found his office locked. Another letter waited. Mr. Fitzgerald, your office space has been contaminated by negative energy from processing multiple security deposit thefts. Cleansing required. Expected duration, 2 to 3 weeks. Additionally, please explain the attached discrepancies in your books. Attached were 40 pages of documented theft, each incident highlighted and cross-referenced with bank records. Gerald called William directly this time. I was in the office when it happened, watching William take the call on speaker. You can't do this. Gerald screamed. I'll sue. Please do, William said calmly. I'd love to explain to a judge why you think emotional damage is worth $5,000 when someone's daughter dies, but worth nothing when it's your apartment. This is extortion. This is business. You said so yourself. When Gerald, you're fired. Please vacate any property belonging to Sunset Holdings within 24 hours, or we'll charge storage fees. The line went dead. Sarah would have loved the irony. She'd always said the universe had a sense of humor, that what goes around comes around. Watching Gerald get evicted from his own apartment using his own twisted logic felt like she was still there, orchestrating cosmic justice with a spreadsheet and a smile. The lawsuit came next. William filed on behalf of all tenants Gerald had stolen from over 3 years. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, forged receipts, fictional contractors who'd never existed. Gerald hired a lawyer, tried to fight. But when the prosecutor added criminal fraud charges, his lawyer advised him to settle. The final number was $127,000. Restitution for all stolen deposits, plus penalties, plus emotional damages. The judge particularly enjoyed that last part. Mr. Fitzgerald, she said at the hearing, you created a precedent that emotional damage has monetary value. The court agrees. The emotional damage you've caused dozens of tenants who trusted you with their hard-earned money is substantial. Gerald declared bankruptcy within a month. His real estate license was revoked. Last I heard, he was working at a car rental agency, telling anyone who'd listen that he'd been set up by a vindictive billionaire. Technically true, but missing the point entirely. William donated every penny of the settlement to a fund for young widows and widowers, the Sarah Chin Memorial Foundation. It helps people navigate the practical aftermath of loss. Security deposits, lease breaking fees, moving costs. All the things that shouldn't matter when you're grieving but somehow become mountains. I kept Sarah's apartment for 6 more months. Not living there, I couldn't, but visiting. Sitting with her things, remembering. William never charged me rent. She loved that place, he told me one day. First apartment she got on her own without knowing it was mine. She was so proud, showing me around, pointing out the crown molding she'd noticed, the original hardwood floors. You gave her a beautiful home. No, he corrected gently. She made it beautiful. I just owned the building. When I finally cleared out her belongings, I found something that broke me all over again. A spreadsheet on her laptop titled, Dad's Buildings. She'd figured it out, tracked the LLCs, connected the dots, realized she'd been living in her father's property all along. The last entry was dated a week before she died. Asked Dad about this at birthday dinner. Probably wanted me to feel independent. Sweet old man. Lucky to have him. She never got to that birthday dinner. I showed William. He cried, first time I'd seen it since the funeral. She knew. She knew. And she loved you for it. Gerald Fitzgerald thought he could profit from our grief. He thought death was just another business opportunity, that mourning made people weak, that legal threats would silence us. He was wrong about everything. Death doesn't leave emotional damage on apartments. It leaves holes in hearts, empty chairs at dinner tables, voicemails you can't bear to delete. It leaves boxes of belongings that smell like someone you'll never hold again. But it also reveals who people really are. Gerald revealed himself as a petty thief who saw tragedy as opportunity. William revealed himself as a father whose quiet power could dismantle those who hurt his family. And Sarah, even in death, revealed that she'd known about her father's protection all along and loved him more for letting her stand on her own. The building has new management now. William hired a company that actually cares about tenants, that sees security deposits as what they are, security, not profit centers. Gerald's old apartment is rented to a young teacher who got a discount for working at an underfunded school. And Sarah's apartment? It's empty for now. William can't bring himself to rent it out yet. Sometimes I still go there, key in hand, and sit in the empty rooms where she lived and laughed and built her quiet, practical life. There's no emotional damage. No spiritual contamination. Just walls that held a beautiful soul for too brief a time, and windows that still catch the light the way she loved. Gerald Fitzgerald learned too late that when you try to profit from someone's death, you might discover their life was protected by love stronger than any lease, any threat, any cruel letter sent to a grieving husband. He kept the $5,000 deposit. Cost him everything else. And somewhere I think Sarah's laughing at the poetry of it all, her practical mind appreciating the clean mathematics of justice, her kind heart hoping Gerald learned something, her fierce spirit glad her father showed no mercy. That's the thing about emotional damage. It's real but not to property. It happens to people, to hearts, to families torn apart by loss. And when someone tries to monetize that pain, sometimes the universe, or a quietly powerful father, balances the books. Sarah's deposit was never about the money. It was about respect, dignity, and the basic human decency not to kick someone when they're down. Gerald failed that test spectacularly. He's still paying for it. And in the Sarah Chin Memorial Foundation office, next to her picture hangs a framed check for $5,000, the stolen deposit that started it all. Below it, a plaque. Sometimes the smallest injustices reveal the biggest truths. He would have loved that. Practical to the end, even in memory. Especially in memory.